the tens of millions who have the app. Download iHeartRadio for free today and start listening.
Welcome to the show. My name is Charlton with Big C. This is Charlton and Big C Sports, coming to you worldwide on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C. And the good old boys down south, I want to say bienvenidos to all of our listeners in Latin America, also across the pond in London, England, as well as Paris, France. We love you in Canada and Africa, the Big C tribe. But there's no one we love more than the good old boys down south. In the land of the free and the home of the brave on a beautiful January the 22nd, 2021. Rondo Deportes, bonjour, Big C. How's it going for you good old boys down south?
Oh, Charlton, we're ecstatic down here. We've been living for the weekend where we got northern football teams playing against southern football teams for a chance to play for a pro football championship in the South.
Yeah, it's all fair.
Once again, I want to thank our frontline healthcare workers, our nurses, doctors, and first responders.
All fair in love and war. I want to say today's show is sponsored by your Northern California Cadillac dealers, home of the all-new Cadillac Escalade, the standard of the world. And when you go by and test drive yours, tell them Charlton and Big C sent you, as well as a fleet of Cadillac cars. Also, all around the world, just say Google or Alexa, play Big C Sports Podcast. You will hear from our sponsors. You will hear welcome to the show. I will introduce Big C as the Mystic. He'll do his thing from 3,000 miles away, and I really do appreciate the way things are brewing with Big C Sports. You can follow Big C Sports on Spotify. You can follow Big C Sports on Xfinity, Comcast TV, Roku TV, Apple TV, Amazon Fire TV, and a lot of smart TVs all over the universe. But you better have a smart TV, or you'll be sitting there looking at a still picture. Man, I love pausing, Big C. I think we have 4 more teams that are going to pause in the AFC and the NFC championship game, but we'll never pause on our Veterans Crisis Hotline. They really are experienced helping veterans and their loved ones. Big C, why should everybody care?
Well, Charlton, with all the salutes and everything that everyone wants to pan out to our military personnel, they forget about the veterans who have served this country, Charlton, and we lose some 2 dozen a day to suicide. Those veterans are never recognized when they're talking about honoring the military, Charlton, yet they're always forgotten about. As a country, we need to do more to protect the sovereignty of those great veterans and find a way to stop the veteran suicide in America. We give out the National Suicide Prevention Hotline number, Charlton, but it needs to be more of a concerted effort amongst all American broadcast companies, Charlton, to let Americans know of the plight of our great veterans, how they're suffering and struggling in this country, Charlton, as everybody is always preoccupied with COVID-19, which is rightfully so. Our veterans get that also, Charlton.
Yeah, and I love doing our part. I really do. We give out the number every single show, Big C, 800-273-8255. That's 800-273-8255. Or you can text 838-255. That's 838-255. If you're online, simply go to veteranscrisisline.net. That's veteranscrisisline.net, and you can definitely get some help for our military. Also very happy to be affiliated with Valley Homes Weekly TV on Dish TV, Direct TV, AT&T Uverse, TV 53, home of the San Francisco Giants and the Say Hey Kid, as well as the home run king, Barry Bonds. When you reach out to him, just tell him Big C sent you. Our goal is simple: recruit 10,000 real estate agents and brokers all over this great country, putting in properties listings on TV just like McDonald's does it. Car dealerships do it, sports teams do it too. Watch TV and real estate work for you. 800-772-8624. That's 800-772-8624. If you're looking for opportunities in real estate, go to bigcsports.pacwm.com. That's bigcsports.pacwm.com. Most of our loans are underwritten by Quicken Loans on the wholesale side. I also want to say thank you to Comcast Spotlight for presenting Big C Sports to the universe. Just like God said, let there be light. Open your cell phones and say, play Big C Sports Podcast. You will see all of our apps pop up, and I really do appreciate the way things are brewing with Big C Sports. And I'm telling you, I woke up this morning, it was actually raining raining in Northern California. There was a song back in the day by Tony called "It Never Rains in Southern California." We gotta sing them for the North too. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, I guess that's something that's needed. You people are always out there, Charlton, burning up from wildfires. Rain is needed everywhere. Maybe we sent you some from the south here.
Yeah. Send out some of that. No, it didn't come from the south. It would have made us all tipsy, if that makes sense to you. When you guys send out liquid libations from the south, it's all fair and love and war. I know we're getting ready. I mean, it's been a lot of good football over the years, and the NFL's pulled it off, Big C. I mean, I don't want to speak too soon, but we've had a couple of games canceled, as you know, in the regular season, or at least pushed back. I doubt if they would ever push back a playoff game. It just wouldn't happen, not in the world of Roger Goodell. But we have some good ones coming up. But before I even get to the games, we've had a lot of progress in this country. NFL football, Big C. Washington football team, they're the first to promote a woman to the staff, and that's done by Ron Rivera. There's so many things happening in the world of sports, but women definitely are making their charge in 2021. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, I mean, it's been progressive in football over the past several years, Charlton. I thought that the 49ers had a female on their staff, as well as the Cleveland Browns earlier in the year. This might be the first advancement for the Washington football team, Charlton, but there's been 2 women already that have coached in NFL games this year.
Yeah, it's amazing how we look at how we're going to have a woman on the staff of the Super Bowl 55, if that makes sense to you. A lot of people are just looking at opportunities and how they can make an imprint in society, starting with the first female vice president of the United States of America. And when I think about it, her name is Jennifer King, Big C. She became the first black female full-time, I think that's the difference, full-time coach in league history after being promoted to assistant on Ron Rivera's staff. So there's been a lot of times when people would have a role in the team, but to be full-time, you know, it's not really a big thing because you have men that coach women's basketball in WNBA and college basketball. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, you know, when it comes to coaching, Charlton, it's about having the ability to teach fundamentals and get your point across, to be able to evaluate talent. That's what that comes down to. It's not about gender, I don't think, in that. I mean, it's going to be tough for a lot of men to accept that role, but if you can accept somebody who is knowledgeable of what they're talking about, that's all that matters in the NFL. And when you look at head coaches in the NFL, about half of them ain't worth the crap anyway.
Yeah, they get jobs anyway if they have the right type of shine, if that makes sense to you, Big C. I want to, speaking about shine, it's down, what that good old boy said, Bruce Buffer, let's get ready to rumble. Well, they're getting ready to rumble in Kansas City, Missouri. And you and I were talking about, is Missouri a western state? Let's forget about Missouri. It's Kansas City. They're called the Midwest. They're not called the Mid-South or the Mid-North or the Mid-East. We need somebody still playing football on the West Coast, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, I mean, it seems like the West Coast is falling off an ocean, Charlton. Teams are abandoning the state. None of them are playing football. So, I mean, they got to grapple for whatever they can get their hands on.
Yeah, blame all the fires. People not putting out fires. It's all fair and love and war. But we do have the AFC Championship game. The Kansas City Chiefs playing for their third consecutive AFC Championship game when they host the Buffalo Bills on Sunday. It's a 6:40 p.m. game, kickoff East Coast time on CBS Sports. So you know Tony Romo's going to tell us what play we're going to see before we see it. Hopefully they will tell him that the analyst's job is not to do the play-by-play, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, I mean, Tony Romo is guessworking in down and distant situations in the game. Any analyst can do what Tony Romo does, that is play quarterback in the NFL. Troy Aikman has that ability to do it. Phil Simms had that ability to do it when he was doing it, as well as Rich Gannon. They choose not to, Charlton. They like to let the game play out for the fans. I don't need somebody predicting what's going to occur on every play. If you're a knowledgeable fan of football, you can almost predict a down and distant situation. And if you're a former player, you know just like Tony Romo what it is.
Tony Romo's like, it's 4th down and 15 from the own 5-yard line. I think they're going to punt the ball this time. Well, it's all fair 11 war. Kansas City.
Tell me this, Charlton. Tony Romo played quarterback in the NFL for over a decade.
He sure
and
did.
He was so highly knowledgeable, sitting up in the booth, being able to predict situations. Why wasn't he able to win as a quarterback in the NFL?
I just want to know how he got the $17 million for never having a Super Bowl, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, you play for the Dallas Cowboys, Charlton, and get your job to broadcast booth.
Yeah.
You look at Troy Aikman, Moose Johnson, Tony Romo,
yeah.
The kid Jason Witten, who had played tight end.
Yep.
They have easy access because they've been an American team and been seen on TV more than anybody as players.
Yeah, and Jerry Jones knows a few people. He'll make some phone calls if that makes sense to you. So Kansas City in the playoffs for a 6th straight season. When you think about it, Big C, 6 years in a row. There's some teams that haven't been in the playoffs in the last, 6 years at all. But they've done this 6 years in a row. I'm thinking about the Oakland Raiders, now the Las Vegas Raiders. So the 6th straight season. Meanwhile, 2nd seed at Buffalo in the playoffs for the 3rd time in 4 seasons. That breaks an 18-year drought, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, this is iconic when you think about the Chiefs' 3rd consecutive run to the AFC Championship game, Charlton. The last team to do that in the AFC was the Buffalo Bills back in the early 90s when they were on their hot streak. So this is a great matchup between these two franchises, two dynamic young quarterbacks with similar skill sets.
Yep.
It's going to be about who can be the most proficient and protect the football.
Yeah.
Neither one of these quarterbacks has thrown an interception in the playoffs.
Yeah, it's amazing. When you think about the Chiefs, Big C, this team has been really dominant lately. The Chiefs' last loss in a playoff game, it was 2 years ago against Tom Brady and the New England Patriots and a couple of referees, if that makes sense to you, that game. Like, you don't get no home cooking and you're the home team with a black quarterback. Yeah, they said, no, we're not letting you get in. But things have changed. And now you have Josh Allen with the Buffalo Bills coming in town, Arrowhead Stadium, fresh off of their first 2 playoff wins in 25 seasons. And I say they got those wins because the offense for Indianapolis could not convert down in the goal line, red zone. They were inside the 5-yard line and settled for a field goal. And then also, when you look at Baltimore, Big C, they missed 2 field goals that would have made the pick 6 not necessary by Lamar Jackson. Could have kicked the field goal. If that makes sense to you, Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, you can always make excuses for the teams that lose, but it's the teams that advance are the ones that you want to be concerned about.
Yeah.
Buffalo won those games. They went out there. Both of the teams had 60 minutes to have an opportunity to win. Buffalo, so we wanted it more, and they took it from those teams. So it wasn't about what those other teams didn't do. It was about what Buffalo did.
Yeah.
They got themselves into the AFC Championship game by having the better football team.
Yeah, so a lot of things breaking it down. The Bills' running game versus the Chiefs' run defense that hasn't lost a playoff game in a couple of years, Big Z. The Bills have the number 20 rushing attack in the NFL in 2020. Got a little bit down the stretch. They let down and started passing the ball more. And you think about it, Allen leads the team in rushing so far in the playoffs. That's not good when your quarterback is the leading rusher in a playoff game, and then he has to take the ball and pass it when he's not rushing it. The Chiefs ranked number 21 against the run during the regular season. Big C, the Bills managed only 32 yards on 16 attempts against the Ravens. That cannot happen in this game, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, maybe that's the reason why the Ravens went home, because their quarterback was the leading rusher for their team.
Yep.
But Josh Allen is a much better passer than Lamar Jackson. And so the Bills had a game plan against the Ravens that they were going to throw the ball.
Yep.
They weren't going to be so much concerned about running the ball, and that's the way they went in to attack. The Kansas City Chiefs are 25-1 in their last 26 games.
Yeah.
So they haven't lost too frequently. They played the Bills earlier in the season. It was a different type of game at that point. We've gotten to a point in the season where those games really don't matter what happened in week 6.
Yeah.
It's about what's happening on Sunday.
Yeah, with their starters report, their starters have not lost at one time in the last 2 years, or they gave up the game the last game of the season just to rest people. As a defensive player, I want to ask you, we talked about Josh Allen being the leading rusher for Buffalo. That's not a good thing. The Chiefs gave up 112 yards to the Browns last week, which is probably the best running team in the AFC. They were giving up 5.1 yards per carry. But you're not going to see Hunt and Chubb in the backfield, not when you have – they're out of the playoffs now. I don't think they should be concerned about giving up 5.1 yards a carry, not to Allen, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, when you look at the Chiefs the last 2 years in the playoffs, they've been able to shut down solid running games. They shut down the Tennessee Titans. They shut down the San Francisco 49ers.
Yeah.
They shut down the Cleveland Browns. And now next on the list is the Buffalo Bills, where Devin Singletary barely touched the ball last week in that home win that they had. Now they're coming to Kansas City. What will be the game plan? That's the biggest mystery for the Buffalo Bills. what's going to be their game plan? Are they going to dink and dunk with the pass again, have that wide running game with the short passes?
Yeah.
Or are they actually going to put the ball in the running back's hands?
They have to put it in the running back's hands. I want to ask you the Chiefs running game versus the Bills run defense. The Chiefs, they're not known as a running team, but they finished in the upper half of the league, ranking 16th overall and averaged a healthy 4.5 yards per carry. That's pretty solid. The Bills ranked number 17 against the run during the regular season, and that was the third worst among playoff teams behind the Titans and the Chiefs. There's a chance that Clyde Edwards-Helaire, he may return, but if not, the Chiefs will still do fine running the ball with Darrell Williams. Big C, your thoughts?
Williams is an outstanding running back on his own. When Edwards-Helaire played earlier in the season for the Chiefs, they rushed for 245 yards against the Buffalo Bills.
Yeah.
But also against the Kansas City Chiefs, the Bills were playing a lot of man defense, so it allowed them to run the ball.
Yeah.
It's going to be, what Leslie Frazier decides to do on the defensive side of the ball for the Buffalo Bills, their defensive coordinator. Is he going to play man or is he going to play zone against this Bills track team?
Yeah.
Because if you're playing zone, Patrick Mahomes will run the ball. If you're playing man, they're going to have a solid running game. So, you got to pick your poison when you're playing the Chiefs offense.
Yeah, picking poison is a great Southern metaphor. You want to get eaten by the rattlesnake, or do you want those war hogs, if that makes any sense to you? A game that a lot of people are thinking they're tuning in for. The Buffalo Bills passing game versus Kansas City's pass defense. The Bills were not far behind the Chiefs in passing during the regular season. They finished 2 spots lower at number 3. They draw the number 14 pass defense, Big C. The Chiefs have not gotten a lot of sacks. They only have 32 on the season, but they have good inside-outside pressure. And when you have Honey Badger in the secondary, think about him with touchdown Stephon Diggs. Those two good boys might be a big matchup, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, this game comes down, like I said earlier, to the defensive coordinators. We talked about Leslie Frazier for Buffalo, and we're looking at Spagnuolo for the Kansas City Chiefs. I mean, he's made game adjustments, Charlton, for every team that they've opposed in critical situations.
Yeah.
And when you think about what he's able to do in making adjustments along the defensive line, bringing up the blitz, if you've eliminated the team's running game, then you're forcing them into that pass situation. The Bills have not been healthy enough running the ball, so it's become, it's going to be forced to a one-dimensional offense in throwing the ball.
Yeah.
Mobile quarterbacks is something that you really don't want to see in the playoffs. We haven't seen one get anywhere in the past couple of years when it comes to winning.
Yeah.
If you're going to rely on the legs of your quarterback instead of his arm, you're not going to win a championship.
Well, speaking of that, basically, the Chiefs passing game versus the Bills pass defense. The Chiefs are the top-ranked passing offense. They'll try to stay hot against the number 13 pass defense. They face the Bills' inconsistent pass rush at times. Sometimes they're great, other times a little bit shaky. The Bills had multiple lapses in coverage against the Ravens last week, and they were fortunate that Jackson and Huntley were not able to take advantage because it was really windy over in Buffalo and in Kansas City. But I want to bring this to your thought. Offensive guy, you have Travis Kelce, I'll say touchdown Travis Kelce, who has performance numbers kind of like a wide receiver. He burned them for 5 catches, 65 yards, and 2 touchdowns in Week 6. Tyreek Hill was limited to only 20 yards receiving. He's going to do a lot better than that, maybe 5 times better than that. Give me your feeling on the Chiefs and that toe that touchdown Patrick Mahomes has, if it's going to hamper him at all, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, the game that they played earlier against the Bills, like I said, they ran the ball against the Bills, 225 yards, so they really didn't need to throw the ball.
Yeah.
Because they were just gashing them on the ground. This is a game where it will come down to the passing of Patrick Mahomes in this game. I mean, it's a total mismatch across the board when you put those Bills, those Chiefs receivers out there. You put 3 men to the field. You put Travis Kelce to the backside by himself.
Yeah.
You got a total mismatch because the safety cannot cover him.
Yeah.
And if you want to bring in an extra cornerback to try to cover Kelce out there, then they just run the ball all day. So, I mean, the ball is in the Chiefs' court in this game to manipulate the offense to take advantage of Buffalo's defense.
Yeah, I mean, if I think about what happened, if Phillip Rivers had just a little bit better game in the red zone, then Indianapolis maybe would have won that game. The same thing with Lamar Jackson. Had he had a decent game, they probably could have won, even if they were good at kicking field goals. So we'll see what happens. It's all fair and love and war. The Buffalo Bills have a chance. I don't think it's a big chance, but they do have a chance. I want to swing the ball over to Lambeau Field, the frozen tundra, and it will be frozen, Big C, up there in Green Bay, Wisconsin, the Green Bay Packers. They will host touchdown Tom Brady. 14 times in the conference championship game for a touchdown, Tom Brady, Big C, is going to be with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers this time in the NFC Championship game on Sunday at Lambeau Field. The top-seeded Packers, they beat the LA Rams on Saturday, while the fifth-seeded Buccaneers, they knocked off New Orleans on the road. Big C, it's hard to get to the Super Bowl on the road, but if anyone knows how to get to a Super Bowl, it would be touchdown Tom Brady, Big C. Your thoughts?
I mean, he's had a phenomenal run in his career, Charleston, getting to this 14th championship game. I mean, that's unheard of in professional football, but Tom Brady has been able to accomplish that. And also to be able to accomplish that in his rookie season with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers is phenomenal also. To lead his team to 11-5 regular season record. He has a wealth of weapons going into this game. And the thing about it, he has a couple of underrated weapons at receivers that people are not going to be thinking that highly of, but they're going to play integral parts in the game. People will concentrate on Evans and Godwin and Gronk, but, you know, you got a couple guys coming off the bench in Miller and Jones who will have outstanding games. Make that Johnson, who will have outstanding games for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. That offensive line is solid in front of him. The running game is suspect down in Tampa, but Tom Brady will show up for this game. This is going to be a nail-biter, and it'll come down to the game, to the end of the game, Charleston, most likely the last possession.
Yeah, the last possession is something that we think about. But you said nail-biter. The Packers turned it over twice in the first meeting, completely changed the entire outlook of that game. They were up 10-0, and then it turned into a 38-10 blowout. Big C, the Bucs had 4 takeaways of the Saints on Sunday. The Packers are 11-0 when they don't have a turnover. And what gives on Sunday, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, you know, when you look at what the Packers did, the Bucs did last week, Charleston, they were playing against a quarterback who could not throw the ball more than 20 yards. So it made it easy. It was like playing in a backyard game. The field was reduced down in size, so it was allowing the linebackers to make big plays on those passes from Drew Brees. You're not going to get that situation with Aaron Rodgers, where you have a wealth of receivers with speed, and Aaron can buy time. He's mobile. You know, he gets off of point where he moves out of the pocket, and he doesn't make it easy for you like Drew Brees did. He's not going to be that stationary target. And then when you think about the running game of Green Bay, you have that two-headed monster in Jones and Adams in the backfield, Charleston, that are a dynamic duo. You got speed and you got power that you can switch up with. Much better combination at running back than what Tampa Bay has. And both of these guys are sure-handed receivers out of the backfield.
Well, think about this, Big C. Aaron Jones, they got to get him involved for Green Bay. The Bucs held them to 15 rushing yards on 10 carries when they met down in Tampa. And that was that first meeting. Matt LaFleur and the Packers offensive line, they must do a lot better blocking against the Buccaneers. Keep in mind, Jamal Williams and A.J. Dillon both had runs of 20 yards or more in the first meeting. The Saints averaged 4.2 yards a rush against the Buccaneers, Big C. That's a clue. It's like the Buccaneers defense is not as stout against the run, and the Packers run the ball better. Are we going to see that continue, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, the Packers are going to run in situations that they need to run in. What you have to be more concerned about in this game is Aaron Rodgers' mobility, buying time. I think a big player in this game, I know everybody talks about Devontae Adams. I think it's going to be Mercedes Lewis at tight end. We know that Van Der Skel will have an outstanding game, but I think Mercedes Lewis will be the difference maker in this game, because when I looked at Cook last week running against that Tampa defense, he was open on several occasions. Maybe he cost him the game at one point when he fumbled the ball at midfield. But Mercedes Lewis will have those same opportunities against this Tampa defense.
It's amazing. You talked about Devontae Adams. He had 6 catches, 60 yards in the first game, in both on Rodgers' interceptions. Think about it, in the first meeting. And once again, the Packers have to do a better job to get the ball down the field to Adams. In the middle of the field, you think about it, the defenders must do a better job with Robert Gronkowski. He had 5 passes for 76 yards and a score in the first meeting. He had a better game, when you think about it, had a better game than Devontae Adams. That cannot happen again. And the Buccaneers, Big C, they had 125 yards rushing. Leonard Fournette and Ronald Jones on Sunday against New Orleans. I like Jones better than Fournette, but I know you like Fournette better because he's from the SEC. Jones is from the Pac-12, Big C. Your thoughts?
I think both of those running backs are going to struggle in this game, Charleston, in the cold, especially Ronald Jones with the quad injury. I think is going to stay stiff on him. Leonard Fournette has not grasped the game late in the season as he did when he first came over to Tampa. I think Green Bay has the opportunity to control the game on the ground. They have the better tandem of running backs, and Rob Gronkowski, he's only caught one pass in the last 2 games.
Yeah, he's been resting up, trying to save those hands for the NFC Championship game. I got to get this thought to you because you said it may come down to a last possession game. In the turnover battle, Big C, I know you're big on that. If the Packers are 11-0 when they don't have a turnover in 2020, they are 3-3 when they have at least one turnover, Big C. The Buccaneers, they are 1-4 when they turn the ball over at least 2 times, but 7-0 when they don't have a turnover. If that makes sense to you, which team would you like to see with a chance to win down by 4, say 28-24, 2 minutes on the clock? Who do you trust more to score, Tom Brady or Aaron Rodgers, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, both of these quarterbacks are equally capable in that situation with less than 2 minutes on the clock. I think it's going to come down to which quarterback has the cleanest jersey at the end of the game.
Yeah, I'm telling you, it's going to be a good game. The weather's going to be cold, but both of these quarterbacks have played in the cold before. NFC Championship Sunday is a 3:05 p.m. kickoff, East Coast time, and it's going to be on Fox Sports. I look forward to this game. It's kind of like you don't want to see these teams come to an end because Brady and Rodgers have never faced each other in a Super Bowl. In the final, the only time they get to face each other is going to be in a championship game, and one of us cannot go on to the Super Bowl. Last time at Lambeau Field, Brady lost when he was with New England, but we'll see what happens on Sunday. Should be a good one. I want to just run down a couple of things to get your opinion for AFC. We think about the 5 greatest AFC championship games, Big C. Number 5, in my opinion, it was 1995, the Pittsburgh Steelers 20, the Indianapolis Colts 16, trailing 16-13. In favorite, the Steelers took the lead after Ernie Mills had a 37-yard catch that set up the great Bam Morris on a 1-yard touchdown run. The Steelers' defense then had to withstand a last-second Hail Mary by Jim Harbaugh, of all people, and the pass was nearly corralled by Aaron Bailey, who cradled the ball in from his chest before it touched the turf, and it made for a 38-year-old Bill Cowher, the youngest coach to take a team to a Super Bowl. Big C, your thoughts?
This was a great rivalry at that time. You think about Jim Harbaugh and all of what he's done coaching. Many people forget that he was an outstanding NFL quarterback with the Colts and with the Bears throughout his NFL career. And Pittsburgh Steelers, every coach that they've had since the 70s have won Super Bowls.
Yeah.
Bill Cowher was second in that line. He took over from Chuck Noll and went on to win a Super Bowl with the Steelers.
Yep.
I mean, this team has had a great legacy over the years.
Yeah, they've been doing their thing. And then, of course, Tomlin, he got his Super Bowl. Before we get up on the Big C pause, I think about 2018. It was the Patriots 37, the Chiefs 31. It was Brady's 9th AFC Championship game. Think about it. He's in 14 now. It's amazing, Big C, but it was his 9th AFC Championship win. And it came at the expense of Patrick Mahomes, who this Sunday will look to lead the Chiefs in their 2nd consecutive conference title game. Big C, the Chiefs' AFC Conference Championship tally would really already be 2 if not for Brady, who led the Patriots offense on a 13-play, 75-yard drive in overtime that was capped off by Rex Burkhead's 2-yard touchdown run. And moments earlier, Brady had been bailed out by Dee Ford in the officials, in my opinion, who was ruled offsides on the play and saw Brady throw an interception to Javarius Ward. Big C, your thoughts?
That was a game that you thought that the Chiefs' legacy was going to begin in, Charlton, but it had to wait a year.
Yeah.
And yet it propelled Tom Brady to his 9th Super Bowl. A great run that Tom Brady had there in New England. I mean, this was one of the best AFC Championship games that we watched in recent years. It was back and forth between two great combatants, the young gun of the AFC and the old goat of the AFC. We will never see that run again, Charlton, that Tom Brady has put up, most likely.
No, and speaking of goat, I want to make sure that people can get the Big C burger. It is a tasty burger. It's made with exotic meats, and it goes great with the Budweiser Zero. It has 0% alcohol, and it goes great with the Big C burger. Before I get on some more games that were, in my opinion, some of the great games, we're going to take what's called the Big C pause. When we come back, we're going to talk more about some NFL football and also a legend in the world of Major League Baseball. In the words of the great Arnold Schwarzenegger, we'll be back. All right, we are back from the Big C Pause, also known as the Big C Timeout. You can follow Big C Sports 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on the #1 podcast network in the universe, iHeartRadio Podcast. You can follow Big C Sports on Apple Podcasts. You can follow Big C Sports on Google Podcasts. There's so many apps, and I really do appreciate the way things are going with Big C Sports. I also want to thank Xfinity Comcast and also Comcast Spotlight for presenting Big C Sports to the universe. Just like God said, let there be light. Open your cell phones and say, play Big C Sports Podcast. You will see all of our apps pop up, and I really do appreciate the way things are growing with Big C Sports. Big C, back in 1987, the Broncos 38, the Browns 33. It's amazing how the Browns are back and the Broncos aren't after a heartbreaking AFC title game loss to the Broncos the previous year. Think about that, Big C. We'll do more on that later, but the Browns were trying to play the role of spoiler again late in the rematch. Cleveland's comeback was spearheaded by none other than the great quarterback Bernie Kosar and the running back Ernest Biner. On their final drive, the Browns appeared to be on the verge of tying the game after driving inside the Broncos' 10-yard line. Cleveland ran a draw. Biner, who found space on the right side of the defense, Biner fumbled the football 2 yards short of the end zone, and the Broncos recovered. It was Jeremiah Castile. He forced the fumble, and they were on their way to the Super Bowl. Big C, your thoughts?
You know, this was a rivalry in the AFC before it was New England and Indianapolis.
Yep.
That the Browns and the Broncos seemed to get together annually, and I remember it vividly. This was a game that was in freezing cold at Old Municipal Stadium in Cleveland.
Yep.
And the Browns seemed to have it in the basket, Charlton. You thought they were finally going to break that proverbial egg and make it to the Super Bowl. Ernest Biner had a gaping hole. And all of a sudden, as he went to dive for the end zone, he was stripped of the football. Broke every heart in the state of Ohio.
Yeah, you got to be careful when you see a gaping hole, Big C. Sometimes it's just the best to run around and hit that thing. It's all fair in love and war. 2006, the Colts 38 and the Patriots 34. What a great game. The Colts found themselves. They were staring at a 21-3 deficit midway through the second quarter of the 2006 AFC Championship game, but following Asante Samuel's 39-yard pick six of Peyton Manning. Peyton Manning, amazing, Big C. The Colts scored the game's next 18 points. That included a touchdown pass from touchdown Peyton Manning to lineman Don Keko, Big C. The Patriots went back ahead before another Colts lineman, center Jeff Saturday, doing his things on Sunday, if that makes sense to him. He tied the score later, pouncing on a fumble in the end zone, trailing 34-31 with 3:49 to play after reaching the Patriots' 11-yard line. Touchdown Peyton Manning. He called 3 straight runs to rookie back Joseph Adai, Big C. His third carry resulted in the go-ahead touchdown. There was 1 minute and 2 seconds left on the clock. The Colts would go on to win their lone Super Bowl under Manning's career, Big C. Your thoughts?
You know, many people think that this is one of the greatest rivalries in the modern NFL, Charlton. Peyton Manning versus Tom Brady. Statistically, two of the top 3 quarterbacks in NFL history. And they put on a great show that day at the Dome in Indianapolis, Charlton, back and forth. And it seemed like the Patriots would have a chance to come back after Adai scored that game-winning touchdown. But the ball was knocked out of Tom Brady's hand on the next possession of the Patriots, and the Colts went on to win their one and only Super Bowl under Peyton Manning.
Yeah, you would have thought they would have had a lot more Super Bowls too, but I remember they had Jim Caldwell, who can't get a job for some reason. He had the Indianapolis Colts at 14-0, and Polian, I guess he wanted to rest the starters for the final 2 weeks, and that cost them a chance of going 16-0, and they later fell in the playoffs. It's all fair and love and war. 1986, the Denver Broncos 23, the Cleveland Browns 20. In overtime, the 1980s Browns lost 3 AFC title games in a 4-year span. Think about that, Big C. While each loss was painful, the first one was undoubtedly the hardest to swallow, with the score tied at 13. Touchdown Bernie Kosar's 48-yard pass to Brian Brennan gave the home team a 23-10, actually it was 20-13 lead, facing 3rd and 1 from the Browns' 5-yard line. Touchdown John Elway took the shotgun snap. He waited for Jackson to break free from his defender and threw a dart that Jackson was able to corral in the end zone. The score, which came, think about this, with 32 seconds left in regulation, capped off what's known in the NFL history as the drive. In overtime, you have Rich Carlos kick the game-winning field goal as Elway, touchdown John Elway, and the Broncos were on their way to Pasadena. Big C, your thoughts?
You know, John Elway broke the Cleveland Browns' heart on many occasions, Charlton. I don't even think he's allowed in the state of Ohio
no.
anymore. But when you think about those memorable games in the playoffs and the AFC title games between the Broncos and the Colts, when they played old-time smash-mouth football, Charlton, in the cold, these were great, epic games. And you know, Bernie Kosar got the Browns to the AFC Championship on 3 out of 4 years, as you stated. After that, you talk about a hard luck franchise.
Yeah, it's amazing how you can always think, as a lot of people think, oh, we'll just get back there. We'll get back there next year. You know, we always going to get back next year. It's always a next year, Big C, and sometimes that next year doesn't happen. I want to take a look at what happened, in my opinion, in a lot of the great games in the NFL that have been played in Tampa Stadium. And you think about it. Remember the old sombrero? They got rid of that stadium. They tore it down. That's where the Bills missed a field goal and ended up losing the Super Bowl to the New York Giants. But think about it. 1984, Big C, it was the Los Angeles Raiders 38 and the Washington Redskins 9. It was touchdown Marcus Allen out of USC. He had 191 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns and one of the most memorable runs in the history of the Super Bowl. Big C, your thoughts?
You know, this is the second victory of Jim Plunkett's career as a quarterback with the Oakland Raiders. Marcus Allen walks away with the MVP trophy in that game on a memorable 79-yard touchdown run. It was a sweep left. He reversed it and came back to the right side of the field. He was escorted down the field by Cliff Branch, Charlton, and propelled the Oakland or Los Angeles Raiders to a Super Bowl victory.
Yeah, it's amazing how the Raiders under the late Al Davis, and then you had Tom Flores, and you have Jim Plunkett, and Al Davis is gone. Tom Flores still not in the Hall of Fame yet, Big C, and Jim Plunkett still not in the Hall of Fame. And you know the ironic thing? They were both hired by a guy that was called the Maverick and the late Al Davis, a man who gave many people of color a job, gave Art Shell a job with the Oakland Raiders as head coach, gave Tom Flores a job as a person of color, hired Jim Plunkett, and we have 2 of those guys that helped win one of the best Super Bowls ever as far as dominance-wise, 38-9, and they're nowhere near the Hall of Fame unless they're watching on TV. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, you know, time will come. I believe Tom Flores will make it into the Hall this year, Charlton. Jim Plunkett, you know, based on numbers and years, I don't know if he'll ever make it in, but he'll go down with 2 Super Bowl victories as a quarterback that was ostracized from the greatest enshrinement of all.
Yeah, and you have some quarterbacks that don't have his numbers and don't have any Super Bowls, but they're in, but it's all fair and love and war. Big C, 1991, it was a good time for football, Big C. The New York Giants 20, the Buffalo Bills 19, wide right. You have touchdown Otis Anderson. He had 102 yards and 1 touchdown, but I still remember he had that wound-up thing that he would do with his arm before he ran into a defensive player. And I guess touchdown Derrick Henry has perfected that. But that was also a great game. 20-19, you can't get much closer to that, Big C. Your thoughts?
This game is memorialized for 2 great reasons, Charlton. The late, great Whitney Houston national anthem that she sung before the game after Desert Storm had started in the Middle East, Charlton, as also as Scott Norwood's wide right, which cost the Buffalo Bills their best opportunity to win a Super Bowl.
Yeah, it's amazing how that Buffalo Bills team, I know people say they don't want to leave a game up to a kicker, but sometimes it does come down to a kicker, and if you can get it get it between the goalposts, you win. And it was wide right. In the biggest game of his life, wide right, and the Buffalo Bills had 3 more chances and still couldn't get it in the middle, if that makes any sense to you. I want to take you to a game that was played in 2001. It had a lot of action outside of the stadium as much as it had on the inside of the stadium. It was the Baltimore Ravens 34, the New York Giants 7, and then sack man Ray Lewis and the Baltimore defense, they forced 5 turnovers over the New York Giants. And many people feel that Ravens defense was as good as the 85 Bears, but you know, you get better as you get older. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, no, when you think about that Ravens defense in that Super Bowl against the Giants, Johnson, that's the most, you know, one of the most damning performances we ever seen in a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
I mean, when the Giants walked out there, you could almost see fear in their eyes because the Ravens hit everything that was moving.
Yeah.
And when you think about it, that the defensive players are named most valuable players in the Super Bowl. This hadn't happened since the Dallas Cowboys had beat up on the Denver Broncos when Ray Lewis was named the most outstanding player of the game.
Yeah, he really was. I really remember that Ravens team, and I think it might be, I think about that Ravens team, their defense has always been legit. I remember when, I think it was Saragusa, they came out to the Coliseum, and they had one of the Sharp brothers that had a long touchdown pass, and they ended up beating the Raiders. I think it was 16-7, but they had a cheap shot on Rich Gannon, drove him into the Coliseum turf in Oakland, and he wasn't thrown out of the game, and it messed up the Raiders' chance of advancing in that game. But they've always been led by their defense. I know people think about now, when you think about the Ravens, they think about Superman Jackson. So when did it change from that great defense that has won Super Bowls to a lot of hype about Superman Jackson, and they haven't even been to a Super Bowl with him? Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charleston, I don't know if all the hype in that town is about Jackson. I mean, their defense has always been stalwart. I mean, when you look at what their defense did to Buffalo, only giving up one touchdown in that game, and Jackson wasn't able to deliver on the offensive side of the ball. Matter of fact, Jackson gave up as many points as the defense gave up to that Buffalo Bills team.
Yeah, that's very well said. Defense does win championships. And thinking of it, Big C, 2009, when you think about games played down in Tampa, the Pittsburgh Steelers 27, the Arizona Cardinals 23, and San Antonio Holmes. There's rumor that he doesn't like to cut his toenails, but Coach told him to cut his toenails so he could have an extra inch of shoe that wasn't stretched out over the end zone. Because Antonio Holmes cut his toenails, his shoe wasn't sticking out on the out of bounds line when he caught the pass.
Well, Charleston, this was one of those back and forth games. I mean, a lot of people remember Marvin Harris's 100-yard interception return right before halftime, Charleston, that gave the Steelers the lead in that game. But Antonio Holmes' catch, I mean, the most miraculous catch in Super Bowl history. Yeah. When he did the toes on the end zone line, and Ben Roethlisberger was able to squeeze it in. He made a fingertip catch, a toenail tag on the inline top, and the Steelers had this sixth Super Bowl in franchise history.
Yeah, that play made me cut my toenails, Big C. They were kind of hanging out over the end zone, if that makes sense to you. I cut my toenails based on what Antonio Holmes did in that game, seeing the Steelers do their thing. So there's been a lot of good games down in Tampa, and it seems like we're on the verge of another good Super Bowl down in the Sunshine State. That's all fair and love and war. Big C, I want to bring you some thoughts on some things that are happening in the world of sports, as we're always advocating for just people to get an opportunity. And every person, in anything you do in life, someone has to give you an opportunity. Even if you think you did it on your own, somewhere down the line, somebody had to say yes to you. Washington football team, they've hired Martin Mayhew, Big C, as his new general manager. The team announced that today, adding another experienced voice to help coach Ron Rivera. Now, think about it. He was named Detroit's general manager in late 2008, Big C, after the Lions made the postseason in 2011 and 2014. The only 2 years which they had a winning record during his tenure. Mayhew hired Jim Caldwell in 2014, and also the hiring of Caldwell paid off. Detroit finished with 3 winning seasons in Caldwell's 4 years with 2 playoff appearances. They haven't made the playoffs since Caldwell was fired for having a winning record. He also played 4 years as defensive back in Washington. They won a Super Bowl in the 1991 season. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, when you think about a former player, Charleston, with intelligence and perseverance, Martin Mayhew represents that. While he was playing football with the Washington Redskins back at that time, Charleston, he was also attending Georgetown Law School. Yeah. So this is a very salient and intelligent individual, Charleston. He moved on after his football playing days to work in management with a couple of football teams, the latest in San Francisco 49ers, prior to being hired as the general manager of the Detroit Lions. And we think about black head coaches not getting an opportunity in the NFL. Yeah. There's been 3 black general managers hired this year in the NFL. And so they're becoming part of the front office phase of these organizations, Charleston. We would like to see blacks on the sideline running an organization, but I guess progress is slow in the United States these days when it comes to hiring minorities.
Yeah, and that has to change, but it only changes with an opportunity. I mean, there's no coach, and people might think, Well, what is it about white guys that get a chance over and over and over again? If not with the same team, they get it within the same league, whether it's college football or whether it's NFL football. They just get rehired over and over again. You can even say the same thing for the NBA. But I wonder when people say, well, they just want the most qualified person. Think about this. There's one African-American head coach in the NFL. That's Tomlin. And Brian Flores in the AFC. So there's two. And Anthony Lynn just got fired. Robert Saleh, he's going to be a Muslim American head coach for the New York Jets. If the league is 75% African American, could you imagine, Big C, if the league only had 3 white coaches, where they were to match the player representation with the coaches? There'd be a blow up in the media. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charleston, if you look at it as far as the most qualified person, you have to take a step back and see how many of these white coaches have had losing records
in the
last 5 years that have been hired. When you want to talk about the most qualified person, they hire these young guys, Charleston, because what happens is that they hire people that they feel that they don't have to get into a power struggle with. Is that somebody who is happy to have the job, who is going to be subordinate and just call the plays on the sideline. They're not wanting to be part of any decision-making with front office or the owner. It's just guys that will stand on the sideline. Look at McCarthy, who got the job in Dallas. He wasn't going to have any say-so in decision-making with the Joneses. No one does. That's why Jerry Jones keeps going through coaches. But when you look around at these young coaches, Charlton, that haven't had any GM experience or know what it's about in drafting players and structuring, they just want guys who are going to call a playbook. But if they bring in a black guy and he's been successful, which the majority of them have been, the ones that have lost their jobs, white guys have stayed around forever with losing records and don't lose their jobs. But if a black coach has a bad season, you got to go.
I want to ask you, because I've been told, don't just give me the problems, talk about the solution. We know the solution is not the Rooney Rule. There has to be something better than that. Because if we were to look at something, and I'm not even being flippant when I say it, if the league is 75% African American, obviously the white owners who own these teams, they don't have a problem hiring black men that can help them win games and make them millions and millions of dollars, Big C, even though they love the white quarterback. Think about it, though. What, in your opinion, could make some of the white owners look at black coaches the same way they look at black players, because the league wasn't always integrated, Big C, but something changed, Big C, your thoughts?
Charlton, they can't. They can't do that. With a black player, all you got to do is walk up, pat him on the back, and say good game. With a black head coach, you got to sit down and have dialogue with him. This is a guy who's going to be the spokesperson for your corporation. Who is the guy standing there taking interviews, talking to the media. A lot of white men have a problem with that, Charlton, because now that Mike is commanded by the black man, he becomes the face of that organization. And that white man that owns that organization is no longer thought about, especially if that coach is successful. And so they have a problem with that, being put on the back burner by a black man, that he is taking second fiddle to him. White men that are billionaires have a real hard problem with that in America. With players, Charlton, they walk up, pat them on the back, say good job. With a coach, they have to sit down and have dialogue with them.
I guess for people who don't understand that, Senator Mitch McConnell, he tried to filibuster everything that President Obama was trying to do. Wouldn't even listen to it. And now he's willing to talk to Joe Biden. I hope they kick Mitch McConnell out of office. Don't listen to that man. He's crooked. But that's just part of politics and sports, how it plays the same. I'm proud of what Washington is doing as far as opportunity for people of color and also women of color. We need more of that. Big C, I want to just touch again on some things with the NFL. When I was doing a sports talk show back in, it was 2000. It was called Sports Talk USA. It came out of Dallas, Texas. Tom Brady was actually our tagline. He said, "This is Tom Brady of the New England Patriots." And you're listening to Sports Talk USA. And I remember that back in the day. I'm sure he follows Big C Sports as well. And think about the NFL Final Four. Tom Brady from way back in the day. Now the NFL quarterbacks, when you think about touchdowns, during the regular season, you have touchdown. Josh Allen has 37 touchdowns. Give me your opinion about what you expect to see with him coming into the playoffs. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, with Josh Allen, I thought last week was his salient moment in the NFL where he had an opportunity to prove himself.
Yeah.
And he was able to pull his team out against the Baltimore Ravens, an outstanding defensive team. And so I don't think that the stage is too big for him here in the AFC Championship. He's arrived at the right time, at the right moment. It's just a matter of how much will he get from his supporting cast.
How much will he get from his cast? I think about touchdown Patrick Mahomes, Big C. He has 38 touchdowns on the regular season. What can we expect in the playoffs with him, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, I expect Patrick Mahomes. I mean, this is a guy that has showcased himself for the last 3 years in the AFC Championship games. We have seen nothing but dynamic performances from him. I think his lowest point output has been 38 points, Charlton, in his previous 2 games.
Yeah, he's doing his thing. I hope his toe is okay, and I'm sure it will be. Big C, touchdown Tom Brady. This gentleman has 40 touchdown passes in the regular season. Tell me what you're thinking we're going to see from touchdown Tom Brady in the playoffs, Big C. Your thoughts?
Tom Brady is at home this time of the year, Charlton. This is what, like Christmas, it's going to show up. Tom
Yeah.
Brady is going to show up.
Yep.
And he always puts on a great performance in an AFC Championship game.
Yeah, it's amazing, Big C. Number 1 in the regular season, touchdown Aaron Rodgers. 48 touchdown passes, Big C. What a shame if it came to an end at home. What are you expecting out of the great touchdown Aaron Rodgers, Big C? Your thoughts?
One of these quarterbacks, Charlton, has to go home after this game is over. I mean, this is the best 2 guys left standing in the NFC. Aaron Rodgers, most likely the MVP of the regular season. Can he put it together enough of a game to be the MVP of the postseason?
Yeah, I'm telling you, it's all set up to be some great football games played this weekend. I just want to bring your thought, Big C, in Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady, and Josh Allen. They're all from California. Only Patrick Mahomes from Texas. And we like West Texas more than East Texas, if that makes sense to you, because it's closer to California. Big C, just to recap, I'm looking forward to this game. Tampa Bay Buccaneers at Green Bay Packers. This will be Tom Brady against Aaron Touchdown Rodgers. It doesn't get any better than that. But this game will come down to Rodgers against the Tampa Bay defense more than anything else, Big C. Touchdown Aaron Rodgers can make plays off schedule. Green Bay made the top-ranked Rams defense look pretty ordinary last week, even though sack man Aaron Donald was banged up. I think they'll continue the same thing here as well. Rodgers is playing his best football of his career, in my opinion. The Buccaneers were improved on offense because they ran the football, which is the key to them if they can pull an upset, Big C. That will have to play out in this game as well. They have to control the football. Touchdown Tom Brady, 14th appearance in a championship game. Will challenge down the field, but without the run game, it might not be easy rolling, Big C, against Green Bay's pass rush. In the end, I think Rodgers playing too well. It will be a close game. Give me your final analysis, Big C, your thoughts.
I do expect it to be a close game, Charlton. And like I said earlier, I think this game will come down to which quarterback has the cleanest jersey who will come out victorious. Because both of these teams have outstanding defensive lines. They will put pressure on the running backs. The linebacking cores are substantial for both teams, Charlton. But it's going to be able to put the pressure on Tom Brady. He's a stationary quarterback.
Yeah.
Rodgers has much more mobility. But the Buccaneers sacked him 4 times in the first game that they met this year.
Yeah, it's going to be a great game, and seeing how people can adjust is going to make a big difference in this game as well. Also, the Kansas City Chiefs at home for the 3rd year in a row versus the Buffalo Bills. Touchdown Patrick Mahomes. He passed concussion protocol as everybody knew he would, putting the Chiefs fans at ease. Buffalo's coming off a good defensive showing. But this is a bigger challenge against the reigning Super Bowl MVP, Big C, and defending Super Bowl champions. The passing game is lethal. The Bills have been much better on defense since the midway point of the season. Coordinator Leslie Frazier has done a magnificent job. As for Buffalo's offense, touchdown Josh Allen, he did not put up the usual big numbers last week, but he did make enough plays. It was windy, but the weather holds up here. This could be a great shootout of 2 of the big arm quarterbacks, Big C. Both defenses have improved since Kansas City beat the Bills in Week 6. This time around, I think it's more of an air game with both quarterbacks having good games. I picked the Chiefs to get to the Super Bowl before, and I'm going to stick with that, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, when you look at both of these teams, their running games have fallen off in the latter part of the season, and it's been left up to the arms of their quarterback.
Yeah.
Josh Allen has been steadily improving the second half of the season. He's done enough in the 2 playoff games, Charlton, to catapult the Bills to victories in both of those. The Chiefs, they're coming off their first playoff win of the season, Charlton. They lost Patrick Mahomes late in that game, but the team pulled together well enough and made enough big plays defensively to ensure themselves getting to their 3rd consecutive AFC playoff game.
Yeah.
This game is all about the arms, and when you talk about arms that can throw from any angle, you have that in both of these quarterbacks. I think that the Chiefs might have a slight edge in weaponry when you think about what they can do with their passing game as well as their running backs coming out of the backfield. Is going to be interesting. I think the team that gains the most yards on the ground will win this game, though.
Well, we will see what happens. It's all fair and love and war. Really looking forward to a lot of good football coming up in the AFC and the NFC Championship game. In Dubai, UFC 257, Conor McGregor is back in the octagon. He's 22-4 versus Dustin Poirier. He's 26-6. It's a rematch of a 2014 MMA fight, and that's going to take place on Saturday night. Big C, the sports universe, lost one of its most shining stars in home run Hank Aaron, known as Hammering Hank. Think about it, Big C. As a black man, he was loved for his greatness, but hated for challenging records of Babe Ruth, Big C. He was loved as an athlete and a trailblazer in sports and social justice. Here's a man who got death threats because he was setting records. Athletes today don't have to deal with that. He was also a member of the Negro League, Big C. So not only was he a man that set a record in Major League Baseball, he didn't even begin his career in Major League Baseball. He was in the Negro Leagues, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, it's easy to sing someone's praise when they're gone instead of when they're alive. You think about one city in the South, the city of Atlanta, which had Dr. Martin Luther King, who lost his life in 1968 and was the most hated man in America. Atlanta lost Hank Aaron today, that in the 1970s, he was the most hated man in America. 2 black men in the same city in 2 separate decades, the most hated men in America. Many people don't know that Hank Aaron received a plaque in the mid-70s, Charlton, from the United States Post Office.
Yeah.
Because he received the most mail of any private citizen in the United States, Charlton. 99% of that was hate mail, the vitriol of white people that were angry and wanted to kill or assault him, Charlton, during his lifetime. You think about a man of his greatness. His daughter had to have private security to go to college to protect her with the threats that his family was getting.
Wow.
Hank Aaron is probably the greatest baseball player of all time. You take away his home run, they have him down at 755, but if you actually look at it, it's 786.
Yeah.
He hit more home runs than anybody in professional baseball, Charlton, that's in the Hall of Fame. Hank Aaron, if you took away his home runs, he would still have over 3,000 hits.
Yep.
But this man did the game with pride and character. Hank Aaron was an established player. I mean, he did not get the notoriety of many other players of his era, Charlton, because he was a quiet man.
Yep.
He was out of Alabama, and the city that he grew up, Mobile, Alabama, has 5 players in baseball's Hall of Fame, 5 black players in baseball's Hall of Fame.
Wow.
So Hank Aaron had to go through a lot of vitriol as a player and as a man, but he never went out there, Charlton, and tried to outclass anybody. He was a man's man. He's a professional. Class and character is what he represented, as many Negroes have, Charlton, over the decades here in America.
Yeah.
But what Hank Aaron had to go through, and for one, people want to say how much they love him now, and yet you have to also accept the responsibility of how much you hated him and his family when he was a player.
Yeah, it's amazing. His home run record stood for 33 years, and then hammering home run, Barry Bonds was able to
He still stands, Charlton. He has 786.
Yeah.
Look how many Barry Bonds has. Hank Aaron has more home runs than Barry Bonds.
Yeah, but what's acknowledged by Major League Baseball is what we look at. He played 23 seasons, all but his final 2 years with the Atlanta Braves. You know, he was also with Milwaukee and of course, Atlanta. He was doing some work with the Atlanta Braves organization as well. And I think about a lot of the young black men today that are able to make as much money in 1 year as Hammering Hank made maybe in his whole career with the endorsements and the contracts, Big C. He was elected to the Baseball Hall of Fame in 1982. His first year of eligibility, he received 98% of the vote from the baseball writers, only second at the time to Ty Cobb, who was inducted in 1936. Everybody has their own opinion about how...
Let me inject one thing, Charlton.
Yeah.
You said he had 97% of the vote
Yeah.
to get into the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, by the
Yet,
sports
when
writers.
he went into the Hall of Fame, Charlton, the only record he did, he was third. He was second on the all-time hit list.
Yeah.
When he was inducted into baseball's Hall of Fame. Ty Cobb is the only player who had most.
Yep.
He held the major league record for home runs. He held and he still holds the major league record for total bases. Think about that. He still holds that record. He has 2 records in Major League Baseball that will never be broken, not even counting the home run.
Yeah.
But he could not get 100% on the ballot. It even still showed you after he had retired and became eligible for the Hall of Fame that racism still existed.
Yeah. Yeah. Racism kept a lot of people out. And what a lot of people may not realize, they say, oh, racism, everybody goes through something. There are not many white men who had to get death threats for being great. You think about that. Being great could have cost you your life as an African-American man. You don't think that's tough on people when people are dealing with so many issues? The man batted 305, Big C, for his career. You got guys in the Hall of Fame that bat 260. Hank did it his whole career, batted 305. The league's most valuable player in 1957, when the Milwaukee Braves won their only World Series championship. Hank Aaron was on that roster. 2-time National League batting champion. I think there's just so many things that I appreciate that he pioneered for African-American men, because most men, we talk about the Rooney Rule now. How come black men can't get even an interview, let alone a job, Big C? Well, Hammer and Hank was getting death threats for being excellent. Nobody has to do with that. I just appreciate everything that Hammer and Hank did. He and his family, he hit 715 home run on the evening of April 8, 1974 against the Los Angeles Dodgers at Atlanta's Fulton County Stadium, Big C. And you talked about the hate mail that happened. I challenge, if anyone's going to send Tom Brady hate mail and death threats, if he wins another Super Bowl, if he sets another record for throwing the most touchdowns, Tom Brady has probably never received hate mail and death threats from white Americans for being excellent. Think about that the next time you say, oh, well, Hank was good, but he was maybe not the best. No, he was the best. No one had to go through the garbage that Hank Aaron had to do. And I want to just finish with this thing. The most celebrated record in sports for more than 30 years is Hank Aaron. 23 seasons. As we mentioned, all of his final were 2 years with the Braves. I just appreciate what men do when they're under pressure, Big C. The same kind of pressure that breaks a lot of men. This man, not only has he been one of the best players in the history of the universe, but one of the best characters as well, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, you think about his home run record, Charlton. He was never celebrated as being a home run hitter.
No.
He never hit 50 home runs in a single season in his entire career. He always hit between 30 and 50 home runs. He had a 15-year stretch where he hit between 30 and 50 home runs. You think about the success that he had during that run.
Yeah.
I'll tell you one of the greatest accomplishments of his career, Charlton. When Hank turned 40 years old, that year he turned 40 years old, Charlton,
Yep.
he hit 41 home runs and had 99 RBIs.
Wow.
And yet, he only played in 120 games.
Yeah.
He missed 42 games that season.
Yeah. I'm telling you, there's something about greatness. And when people say, well, we don't know if they're smart enough, we don't know if they have the intellectual capacity, almost everything that black men have done and women in this country that are set records, a lot of times they did it with death threats. Ali went to prison because he stood up for his beliefs, Big C. Colin Kaepernick can't get a job because he says stop killing black people. Find me one white person that's in any record book that dealt with death threats or going to prison because he wouldn't go kill other people. It just doesn't exist. Big C, I hope we have great NFL football coming up this weekend. Again, tribute to Hank Aaron. I'm glad we could do it Big C style. Nobody else in the universe can do it the way we do, and you can Google it. It's all fair and love and war. Big C, back in the day, there's a man by the name of Drew Boudini Brown. He was known as Muhammad Ali's right-hand man, and he would always tell Ali, with all you got to use, How can you lose? Rumble, young man, rumble. Big C, what are you looking forward to in the sports universe?
Well, Charleston, we're getting ready for another Southern team to play in the Super Bowl, and I guess if California wants to see a team in the Super Bowl, they're going to have to host it in one of those stadiums out there and bring the Southern team out. But once again, I want to thank our frontline healthcare workers, our nurses, doctors, and first responders.
Yeah, it's all fair and love and more. I wish everybody the best. Everybody rise and shine. Life is a gift. You got to open it. You can open it every Monday through Friday at 5 and 6 p.m. worldwide when you follow Big C Sports on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C and them good old boys down south. As we always tell you, as my mama tells me, there's never ever an excuse for racism or domestic violence. If you know any man, woman, or child going through that garbage, please pick up the phone and ask for help, because no man, woman, or child should ever have to go through that garbage on their own. And as we always tell you on every Big C Sports show, we thank you, we appreciate you, and we hope that you have a super fantastic day.